It is indeed a pleasure to have this privilege to play here for you. We intend to give you a very fine program, so just settle back, relax, and enjoy the moment.
Good morning. Mic check, 1, 2. Good morning. Good morning, Debbie. Good morning, B-Man. Good morning, Whiskey Neat. Happy Thursday. Man, yo, I'm not even gonna lie. I'm not gonna lie. Yesterday, make sure everything's tip-top. Everything looks tip-top over here. What's up, Jessica? Good morning. Good morning, Nelson Nicole over here on Facebook. Good morning, Facebook fam. Good morning, Twitch peeps. Welcome to Mic'd Up with Mika Gadsden. That's me. I've got to learn how to point opposite. That's me. Thank you for joining me. If you are newish, new or you know, whatever, welcome. Yesterday took a lot out of me. I want to wrap up a lot of what took place yesterday. I want to say first and foremost, shout out to Crystal Rouse, shout out to Alvin Johnson, shout out to Darren Calhoun, and a host of others. But specifically Crystal and Alvin. Crystal, I know, tuned in yesterday. Alvin gave me a call, and Crystal's been texting. And I do look forward to Crystal, if you're watching, either now or later. I do look forward to talking to you. So Crystal, Alvin, Darren Calhoun are just some of the names, some of the chair people who chaired certain subcommittees within the racial equity inclusion. The Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation Commission that was spearheaded by Amber Johnson. That's an official office created by the city of Charleston. That office, even though Amber was working for the city before the George Floyd protests and uprisings, Amber's role changed, from my assessment, changed to focus on the equity, inclusion. I mean, she always was doing that, but equity, inclusion, and racial conciliation. This commission, the report that was being reviewed during Tuesday night's city council meeting, and I want to say Alvin and Crystal specifically, but Alvin and I had a conversation yesterday. Good morning, Meg. Where I learned more about Amber's role, and I learned more about how much trust and solidarity that she earned from folks, from these various chairmen of these subcommittees. And I want to hold space for Amber and her work today. Something that Alvin pointed out to me on the phone conversation was that, the way they set up Amber to fail. And I don't want to mischaracterize Alvin's sentiments. Let me back it up a little bit. The way Amber wasn't afforded an opportunity to carefully present the work that she'd been laboring over for over a year, well over a year, almost approaching 2 years. Amber was not set up for success. Let me say that. I don't want to say that Alvin did not say what I just said verbatim, but the sentiments that both he and I shared, I think that's fair and accurate. The sentiments that he and I shared were that Amber wasn't set up for success. And so my hot take, and I kind of shared this yesterday, is I feel like that was the intended outcome. I think knowing the demographic makeup of Daniel Island, I think discussing such a rich, and I hate to call it controversial, it's not controversial. Nothing within the recommendations are controversial, but given that Charleston fails miserably at reconciling with its past, at confronting its past, given the city's track record with that, I don't think rolling out the commission, its findings, the report, a vote at Daniel Island while you're discussing masks, knowing that you have this supercharged faction of QAnon/Trump sycophants that will come and commandeer and take over these civic spaces. I don't think she was set up for success. So I want to hold space for this Black woman. Yes, because she's a Black woman, but primarily because she and the 40 volunteers, I'm one of them, 40 plus volunteers, really worked hard. But I don't want to I'm not trying to center myself. But she worked really hard, and I don't think the city set her up for success. And I think we need to talk about that. Also, good morning, Erica. Erica Coakley in the house. Good morning. I think also, like, when it comes to Amber, the work that she was charged to do, I think it's so funny. I just watched the story about Kamala Harris, and like her approval ratings are like really low, like historically low, like lower than Dick Cheney, like really bad. And I remember telling my parents, I argued with my parents, I'm like, yo, Biden's giving her a shitty portfolio. And I said this months ago. I'm like, damn, what else she got to do? Cure cancer? Like she had to like walk on the moon. Like she has to do all these things. And I think largely she's seen as a failure in some ways, right? And regardless of what I feel about Kamala Harris politically, right, her being a prosecutor, her being more moderate and centrist, the fact still remains is that Black woman is just not set up for success. And I think that I want to talk about that, and I want to talk about also the city's willingness to give this rabid faction, and I don't think you can call it anything else but rabid, when you have someone praying that God pierces the hearts of city council members with such performative, fanfare. The willingness for city council to cede power to this group and giving them what one could argue is an immediate victory. I scratch my head politically. I think it's the calculation that a number of council members made. I think they can control, pacify, satiate this rabid faction of folks who don't even live in Charleston. A lot of those came to the microphone and said they don't even live in Charleston County. Good morning, El Kuje. And so I'm left puzzled as to why the city ceded so much political ground to a group, and at the expense of and granted, they were more supercharged about mandates, but they also, again, we saw that intersection, right? We saw that yesterday. Shout out to Ray Jean talking about, who brought up the intersection of racial animus and anti-authority, anti-mask, all that stuff that we've been seeing for some time now play out. To see political ground to them, you're not going to be able to tame them. You're not going to be able. I don't care if they're conservative. You're not going to be able to contain them. You're not going to be able to ever satisfy them. You're not going to be able to ever keep them in check. So it's what we've seen for the past, I'll say, 5 years on the national scale. I think we're poised to see that here in Charleston. And instead of being, to me, I feel like the city had a moral obligation to confront its past head on and to adopt recommendations, not policy, but recommendations, right? I feel like there's a moral high ground that the city fails to take time and time again. The lack of white political will to act in the best interest of not just Black people, not just Gullah Geechee folks, but in all act in the best interest of most marginalized communities. I think the city just continue to fail folks. It's so sad to see, and I think we need to I'm going to call it what it is. Good morning, Brit Math over here. So yeah, we're gonna hold space for Amber's work. Shout out to all of the chairs of the subcommittees from the Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation Commission. Shout out to all y'all who drove to Daniel Island after you saw what was going on, after you saw the makeup of the room and the lack of black participation or Black attendees. Shout out to y'all for getting in y'all cars, calling each other, texting each other, and getting down there to at least stand in solidarity with Amber as much of her work was being not only just mischaracterized. I know I'm giving that word a workout this month. Not only was her work being mischaracterized, her work was being bastardized, her work was being maligned. And I'm going to show you, I know I just said a lot, but I'm going to show you exactly like where, and I noticed this in real time, but after I spoke with Alvin yesterday, it crystallized. All right, so let's go. First and foremost, let's just start off real quick, and then we're gonna get to cop over to YouTube and watch some videos. This is the front page of today's Post and Courier. The intention today is to wrap up a lot of what we talked about yesterday. Oceanside threatens suit over inquiry. This is a charter school story. We have a Korean war vet laid to rest in Orangeburg. We know about the shooting in Orangeburg with the 3 students that were injured during the drive-by. We're going to get into that a little bit. The whole Westinghouse thing is still on the front page. Avery Wilkes is on the beat over here. So make sure you use your library card and check that out. Hesitancy on vaccines still running high, of course, here. Right? We're going to get into that story about just the vaccine and COVID-19, the Delta variant. And here at the bottom, shout out to Dr. O, rest in peace. But the Gullah Society dissolves, but the cemetery mission goes on. So these are efforts that were led largely by Dr. O. I'm not going to have time to talk about this today, but I'm going to try to come back to it eventually. So hopefully we can have time to do that in like other live streams. But wanted to show you the front page of the Post and Courier. Want to show you the front page of the state newspaper. All right. Shout out to Caitlin Bird. I know I use a lot of Caitlin Bird tweets and reporting. I posted a lot on Instagram in the stories yesterday from Caitlin Bird from the state newspaper, right? Covering our city council, even though the state newspaper is based largely in Columbia. Okay, so the state preps for COVID boosters, focuses on shots for unvaccinated. All right. State High Court, USC can require masks on campus. We touched on that a little bit yesterday. We know that Clemson, College of Charleston, and USC are all going to mandate masks on campus. Good morning, Meg, on Facebook. Hey, Erica, let me see what Erica wrote here on Facebook earlier. You made your way there just because it wasn't meant for us to be there. Talking about the city council meeting. Erica, I did that like a couple years ago. They did the same thing, holding it on Daniel Island without that advance notice. I did the same thing a couple years ago. Thank you so much, Erica, for going and showing up and knowing what was on the agenda and being able to comment on not just one, but a couple of things, of course. So yeah, this is the story. We're going to talk about this story right here. This is the pregnant mother or a mother who just gave birth, who's battling COVID. I think WLTX did a story on her. We're going to talk about that. Of course, what's on my mind? Afghanistan is on my mind, of course. What's going on there? The protests against the Taliban. I had some other hot takes, but the city council thing just dominated everything. This is the Charlotte Observer. I'm just showing y'all like a little regional roundup. And no, New York Times is not regional, but just showing y'all a little regional roundup of the news. When we talk about regional, we're saying Charlotte Observer, the state, and Post and Courier. All right. CDC plan would allow boosters as early as September 20th. I do this, y'all, so you can also see in contrast coverage between certain regional papers, right? So CDC plan would allow boosters as early as September 20th. Mask mandate ordered, and this is Mecklenburg County. Excuse me. All right. Oh, wow. Look at this story here. Pardon me. City announces street name change as it moves away from Confederate names. If you've been watching, if you've been a long time listener or a long time watcher, you know that there's a direct correlation between, this is shout out to Jacoba Williams and her work as a PhD student or her work as an economist. Jacoba's research uncovered that there's a correlation between lower wages and Confederate street names. So you live in a place that has all these Confederate streets named after Confederate soldiers or Confederate monuments and stuff like that, you actually can see a lower wage for people of color specifically, not just Black people. So that's interesting to see this. I'd be interested to read this story. But yeah, COVID is top news. The booster that's on its way for a lot of folks. I know I'll be trying to take advantage of it when I become eligible. But I wanted to get into, again, I wanted to hop into some local news. Then we're gonna hop back into to the meeting. I want to talk more about the Lynn Piper Loomis character. I went to her YouTube page. This is the video here. Just so you get an understanding as to who this woman was. This is the woman that took to the city council microphone. It was kept, darting her finger in the direction of city council people. She was the one that had that very high pitched prayer. She's also the one that said that God very audibly spoke to her and her husband and commanded that her husband walk. It's part of her story that her husband is not 100%. I think he's disabled. And that's part of her story. Also she's running for Congress. As Evelyn pointed out yesterday, good morning, Nicole. As Evelyn pointed out yesterday in the comments, and I ran with it on Instagram, if Nancy Mace and Lynn Piper Loomis have a debate, y'all get the popcorn. It's not the kind of fun I want to have, but damn, it want to be something to see. It will be a spectacle to see that, and we're going to get a little taste of that. So I got the city council meeting queued up as to where I want to pick up from, and the Piper Loomis story. Let's get into the South Carolina mom fighting COVID. Let's get into that, and then we're going to get into the shooting in Orangeburg that left 3 students injured. We're going to get into that, and then we're going to hop right into Ms. Piper Loomis, and then the city council meeting. Do that second part that we just didn't have enough time. That was a marathon meeting. Yeah. I'm definitely going to... I'm mad I didn't... Nicole, good idea. I'm definitely going to live stream any debates, anything that involves one or both of those women. But also I regret that I didn't live stream. No, I don't, because it would have been 4 hours. I didn't live stream the city council meeting. And we all suspect, that's why we were all watching the meeting. If we didn't attend in person, we knew something was going to pop off. I regret not live streaming that. But here we go. Let's watch this package here from WLTX. No matter what our governor says, COVID is very real. And yeah.
A South Carolina woman continues fighting for her life.
Erica.
She got sick with COVID-19 while pregnant.
Real quick, time out. Erica says you may need to run for Congress. Erica, I wish you would. And girl, let me tell you something. Say less. Someone else, Meg is agreeing with you. say less.
We first brought you this story shortly after she gave birth while sick. Today, her husband spoke with our Julia Kaufman, imploring expecting parents to get the vaccine.
Sierra and Jamal Chubb are happily married.
Sierra's my best friend.
With 3 young children.
She's a phenomenal human being. She believes in grace and forgiveness.
They were expecting their 3rd child when she contracted COVID-19.
Wow.
When we tested positive on the 21st, we took her to the hospital on the 24th. And she was admitted for a COVID pneumonia.
Sierra gave birth to Miles, a healthy baby boy, but was then put on a ventilator.
At one point, I was sitting with her by her bedside, holding our son Miles, and watching Sierra's condition deteriorate. Watching her struggle to breathe with my own eyes while I'm holding the future of our family.
This is so heart-wrenching, and I want to lift up what Nicole just dropped in the Twitch chat. Show us proof, like you putting this in quotation, Nicole, is show us proof that this is worse than a common cold. That's something that we heard often at that raucous city council meeting on Daniel Island. It's like this: show us proof, show us the data, literally talking to doctors, literally as doctors line the walls of the recreation center, and some medical professionals actually they continue to ask for data, ask for proof. One doctor even told you, hey, I treated 2 kids who had 103 or 103 degree temperature. They had COVID. They were at summer camp all day, exposing other kids potentially to COVID. Like, you've heard all of the real-time analysis from doctors on the front line, and you hear these testimonials from people like this Mr. Chubb and his wife. You hear these testimonials, and yet it's still not enough, because this rabid faction has taken this whole conversation, taken this whole pandemic, and just turned it into something completely just unrecognizable. This is a health crisis, nothing more, nothing less. It's not political. Of course, there are political factors within it and how we manage it and all that other stuff, but this is not political. This is common sense. This is science. So Nicole, you're right. What's up, Joni James? Joni C. James, what's up? On Twitch. Let's let it rock.
Jamal says his wife chose not to get vaccinated due to unknown risks for her pregnancy.
We kept waiting for instruction about pregnant women.
It's been
to be
inconsistent.
Clear. But there hadn't been any clear instruction about it. So we waited.
Now, with new data showing vaccines are safe for pregnant women, he's urging others to get the shot so they don't experience what his family is going through.
I'm sleeping in my daughter's room in her twin bed every night because she's crying and missing her mom. And I don't want this for anyone. I can't stress that enough. I don't want this for anyone. I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy. Please be informed. Please, I'm pleading with you. Do what you need to do to protect your health, the health of your children, and the health of your family.
She's a healthy young woman, and she should have been had a much easier pregnancy than this.
Dr. Helmut Albrecht is one of Sierra's many physicians at Prisma Health working to keep her alive.
Women with COVID during pregnancy had a 15-fold higher risk to die.
Wow,
Albrecht
I didn't know
says
that.
the vaccine is now strongly recommended for pregnant women.
There's no fertility issues with the vaccine. There is fertility issues
With men, right?
and death issues with COVID.
Jamal and Sierra
Yes.
can't turn back time, but hope their story will inspire others to get the shot. Reporting in Columbia, Julia Kaufman, News 19, WLTX.
Yeah,
Also today, Jamal shared he is optimistic about his wife's recovery. He says they have a long journey ahead, but are starting to see signs of improvement.
Okay, so again, that's from the front page. Well, that story brought to you by WLTX, and as she just mentioned, they covered this story once before. I wanted to go back to the front page of the, and I got the comments over here. I'm about to read these comments on Twitch. Thank you, B-Man. And El Kuja, I'm about to read your comments over here. But again, the front page of today's state newspaper, talking about the third booster shot you might need, and highlighting the story of the Chubb family, the mom on a ventilator, fighting to survive. Right. So I thought that was really important to show. Okay, over here on Twitch, you are saying, let me see, El Kuj says, how can you deny over 600,000 people who die from COVID? I don't know either. You keep saying show us the data, and you got a death toll right here, right? And I'm not trying to be morbid or flippant about that death toll. And you says, yes, I ran into someone who is like, says, said it's like a flu, right? My dad has been talking about that a lot as well. He spends a lot of time during the day in like the Ravenel, Edisto, Hollywood area, and he says he hears it a lot. He hears that flu conversation a lot. B-Man, you said there's nothing you can say to convince the misinformed. They only change their mind if someone they love has a bad case. That's true. And even then, we've seen them on like CBS this morning. We've seen people struck. I don't know what the tense is. People who are sick with COVID, in their hospital bed, getting oxygen at the highest level right before, intubation. And they still are saying, I'm not getting the vaccine. It has a microchip in it. They're tracking us. It's just the most, like, everything except they go for everything completely out of the realm of possibility, completely far-fetched, instead of grabbing what's most immediately available. And I to a degree, I get vaccine hesitancy if you really don't trust, like, don't know the science or don't have access to information. Like, I have patience for people at that level. I don't have patience for people who come up with and concoct things like microchips in vaccines and inoculation, or the vaccine goes to your brain. That's why we're seeing neurologic, like all that bullshit that we've already debunked on this live stream. You're right, and they can't be convinced, right? All right, KCJ18, he said there are death issues, not fertility. Right. You got it. Thanks for keeping me honest. B-Man, someone's agreeing with you. Nicola's agreeing with you. At this point, there's nothing but personal experience. That's it. And KCJ18, you say it again. Yeah, it's cringeworthy just to watch that mess, man. It's horrible. All right, let me close it down. Let me go back to YouTube. Okay, so want to talk about the vaccine. Want to talk about Okay, the Orangeburg shooting. Let me see real quick. Let me see. I have not watched. I think I might have clicked on it, but I didn't sit and watch it.
Already skeptical about her coming to school, because of COVID. But now it's like I just feel like, it doesn't matter. She's not safe at all. I have to worry about, children shooting at one another.
I know.
It's just, it's scary.
Hard. It's sad.
My anxiety is high. I don't know. I just don't know.
All of this falls
you,
on the
Nicole.
third day of school for Orangeburg County. News 19's Eleanor Tebow now with more from parents and a student's perspective from just yards away.
I was worried the whole time. I was just trying to call everyone, make sure everybody check up on their peoples or whatnot.
It's a call no parent would ever want to receive.
It's the third day of school, and here we have a shooting on campus at OW. My daughter called me. She's trapped in the school. The school is on lockdown. I can't get to her. They can't even go to school and be safe. It could have been one of our kids.
3 students shot and injured at Orangeburg Wilkinson High School. Families were notified, all told to wait in the parking lot at the Orangeburg Technical College as students were held in lockdown at the high school.
I hope that it wasn't none of my brothers. I mean, it's worried me, That's why I came here.
ACJT, and I agree completely. She really did articulate the angst from that parent's perspective very well. Yeah.
It worried me.
Mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, grandparents, all anxiously waiting to see their loved ones.
Well, I was just concerned about my son. My grandson goes to school down here. I don't know if it's just a sign of the culture that we live in. Yeah, it's very concerning to me.
It's a major concern, and then it's a major weight to even see your child. Or to know if he's okay, or if he was a witness.
Hours later, the students were released. Brian Richardson walking side by side his son, thankful for his safety.
Just knowing that he's safe and still afraid for him to even go to school tomorrow, and knowing not what's going to happen. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully he has something in place where he can be safe for the rest of the year.
16-year-old Tadarius McDonald, a student at Orangeburg Wilkinson High School, described to me the moments the shooting happened.
I saw a white car start shooting. I had like 5 gunshots, and I was like terrified. So I just ran with other people. People was running, I was running. Then staff and teachers getting everyone into the school.
He says he and his classmates were terrified.
Everyone was terrified, scared, everything, because, it just happened that quick.
Right at the start of his junior year.
It's like, oh, this is happening
This
on
is
the
so
third day of
sad.
school. This can't be real, can it? This is happening.
As for parents, the question they're now asking themselves is, will their child be returning?
I'm not comfortable at all. And as of now, she won't be returning because my child is not safe. I need to know that my child is safe at all times. And for something to take place on their watch like this, she won't be returning.
I guess it can happen anywhere.
Man, I just need to get home, need to get some food, we need to lay down, because this is just madness, and this is just crazy. This is why it's Orangeburg. It's crazy in here.
In Orangeburg, Eleanor Tebow, News 19 WLTX.
And remember, we watched that little documentary. I didn't like the documentary, and I think a number of you all pointed out some things about it that we didn't like, but it gave us an idea as to this area and public schools and predominantly black schools in this area. This is an area of South Carolina that is predominantly black. That's a black, African-American stronghold in terms of population size and representation. It's really sad. It's really sad to see this, and whether it's school shootings inside the school or outside with this seems to be drive-by or what have. This is horrible. So my thoughts are with the community members who are still grappling with this. I don't fault mothers, parents, guardians for feeling as if they have to pull their kids out of school. I don't fault them for feeling that way. I can only imagine. I'm not a parent. I can only imagine. All right. So I want to, again, if you're new to the live stream, welcome. Erica, real quick, Erica Coakley, going back a couple stories to the vaccine. Erica, I just want to say thank you so much, Erica, for sharing your thoughts. It's not always easy when we're so divided. Not saying that we are, this live stream is all gang. But thank you for sharing, your account with hesitancy. You were against it at first. You were against the vaccine at first. However, we have been getting vaccines. I question it because your son's autism, but now it's about living. Shout out to, thank you, Nicole. You just gifted my cuz a subscription. Thank you, Nicole. But now it's about living, right? We never seen our higher power, right? Like, yeah, and still believe why. Yeah, right. I loved your mindset, Eric, and I appreciate you sharing, because it's not always easy to share, how your attitudes towards vaccine has changed. And I think it's okay to be honest. Shit, I was thinking, I had thoughts, I had questions. I don't trust this country like blindly in terms of medical treatment. I know about this country's history of how it's treated, not how it's experimented on marginalized people, how it's experimented on women. I've talked at great lengths about Black women and the lack of bodily autonomy. Historically, we've never been able to enjoy any type of real bodily autonomy in this country. Capitalism was literally born through our bodies. We were bred to create more human chattel. We were bred to create more workers, and capitalism literally this version of capitalism that we are in, this very brutal and severe version of capitalism here in America, it traveled right through a Black woman's body. And so like and you're saying what that got to do with, because all of that, the way our bodies are treated and held and cared for in this country is problematic. And so for me, it was more so like the history of violence visited upon Black bodies that made me think twice or do my research or just ask more people who I know are smarter than me. I have got friends who have spouses who are healthcare workers. I've got a lot of y'all are either very, very knowledgeable or have partners who work in healthcare. And so I've relied upon folks who went to school for this shit. And then of course, and you can still have your reservations about this country. You can still have those reservations, but you have to make a decision at some point. To me, not getting a vaccine was not an option, especially with two elderly parents who were also kind of like skeptical. Raise your Black people. It's only for Black people. I'm not talking to nobody else. Black people at home. This is a little exercise. Black people, Black watchers, raise your hand if your parents or someone within your community said, we're gonna let all the white people go and take the vaccine first, and then we're gonna see what happens. It might sound cockamamie, it might sound far-fetched, it might sound like outlandish, but I'm telling you, this is something I've heard over and over again. Like, we're gonna see how the white people, they're gonna run and get it. So let's see. Oh, okay. All right, cool. I can get it now. That's literally something, right? So y'all know what I'm talking about. I think some people understand what I'm talking about. Denisha, raise your hand. Over here on Twitch. I mean, we was like, okay, when it's coming out? Moderna, Pfizer. Let me see if Scott Zakowski. Let's see him. Oh, okay, he's good. Okay. He good. All right. We wasn't running to it. Like, we was like, yeah, we with it, but let me see somebody else take it. Yep. It's real. It's real. All right. Let me tell y'all. I'm sorry. Like, we'll have a conversation about cultural differences and a different live stream. All right. Let's careen the car. Now we're going to head back into politics. We're going to head back into low country politics. We're going to talk about, you see Nancy Mace right there on your screen. She was talking about the Taliban and everything. It's very interesting seeing conservatives champion the Taliban. Like, that's been really interesting to watch. Like, I'm telling you, when convoluted that it's not even an adequate descriptor of what I'm witnessing from conservatives. Look at everybody raising their hand on Facebook. Y'all crazy. Thank you, Facebook. But yeah, anyway, so we're not going to spend too much time on Nancy Mace Taliban. We might just play a little whatever. But let's get back to this. I want to do Lynn's Piper Loomis first, and then get back into the city council meeting, and then talk about holding space for Amber Johnson, her work, and show you how she was set up. She was not set up for success. That's my most diplomatic way of saying it. She was not set up for success. Let me see over here real quick. Let me see your Facebook. Yeah, y'all raise your hand. Erica raised her hand. Nelson Nicole raised your hand. Nelson Nicole said, especially older ones, right? You talk about the Tuskegee experiment. Absolutely. Erica, you went on to say, yeah, you even said that you were going to wait a few months to see. Yeah, that's what my parents said. You ain't alone. I said it too. And then, I wasn't eligible. I wasn't in those high risk groups initially either. So I kind of had to wait and see. All right, let's get to Piper. What's her name? Lynn Piper Loomis. So she is running. Y'all, I had to go on her page. I really try not to click on like the Overton Report or pages like this unnecessarily. Real quick for I want to say this: co-conspirators, accomplices. If you hear any grumblings of any people, Marcus, Erica, Amber, because I know Corey came at Amber months ago. If you hear any grumblings from those white nationalist Facebook groups, those Unmask Our Kids groups and all, if you hear any grumblings where they're mentioning the names of prominent Black people, you need to tell me ASAP. I try not to go on those pages unless I have to. The things I'm doing behind the scenes here to keep myself safe. I'm getting a lot of phishing texts and phishing emails and whatnot. So not trying to get into like the tinfoil hat territory, but I need folks who are accomplices, getaway drivers, aiders and abettors. I need y'all to please keep an ear out, keep an eye open for any type of rhetoric or any type of talk or disparagement featuring any prominent person of color, but specifically anyone who has been vocal about either this Racial Conciliation Commission or vocal about mask mandates or vocal about protesting against police violence. Please keep an ear out on like the Overton Report and all these other groups. All right, that's just something I want to say. Yo, Nicole, you worse than me over here with the nicknames, right? Nicole over here on Twitch. All right, let's play this. This is old girl. This is Nancy Mace's competition. Production value. Okay. Editing. What? Not a Black person in sight. Is that Texas? Wait, oh, she's all over. She's running for Congress for SC1, right? So y'all saw all those images? Wait, hold up. She's running for SC1, right? Statue of Liberty. Didn't I see Betsy Ross making the flag? Hold on. Y'all know how much I care about B-roll. Where is this the Midwest? Y'all know how I feel about B-roll. B-roll matters. All these images are intentional. Saw everything but the space shuttle landing. A lot.
Hi everyone, Lindsay Piper Loomis here. I am campaigning for South Carolina District 1 for U.S. Congress. It is actually beautiful out here. I am enjoying the rain out here in the district as we head out to our next meeting. I want to talk with you
Erica.
about the election blunder. We have to acknowledge that last year and on January 6th, that the election was stolen from the American people.
Okay, we're going to cut her mic. We're going to cut
in slow motion.
I didn't mean to click on another video of Reggie Miller talking about the malice in the palace. We're going to cut her mic.
Our voices and
okay, so this was made August 3rd. So she's talking about, I saw the America First nonsense. Yes, Erica, cornfield, where are you at, sis? You in Iowa? I don't know. I'm gonna let a little bit more play, but I can't do this. This is not, it literally is not productive. But let me just play a little bit more.
and our votes were stolen. It was a criminal act. Not only that, but when our leaders from both parties did not stand up for us as American
she's going at Nancy Mace
and say that this was a criminal act and that there was an election stolen, they became complicit in the act. They threw our great nation into the dust underneath their feet, and they decided that what they had in their mind for power and the desire for greed, platform, fame, and name was more important than the voice and the votes of the American.
That's just a word salad, y'all. That's just a word salad. Oh my gosh. Somebody said on Twitter, like, they never thought they would have to vote for Nancy Mace. I'll be damned if I voted for Nancy Mace. I wouldn't vote for either one of them. I'm sorry. Say what you want. I mean, I'm writing in somebody. This is crazy. This doesn't even make sense. And I think what we're seeing, and we saw this at, let me go ahead and just get to the city, back to the city council meeting. So this is where I saw a number of Black conservatives. I'm going to stop gendering it so much because I don't want to piss nobody off. But this is where I saw a number of Black conservatives get tripped up. There is this overlap in certain issues that folks care about. And that sect, if you saw, that sect took to the mic. They're very anti-authority, all authority. They characterize, again, take a swig of your coffee every time I say the word characterize. They characterize any form of governance as tyranny, right? They've just got this convoluted, hey, you should wear a mask in the school. Kids should wear masks in schools to help protect them against COVID-19 because they can't get vaccinated. And they turn it into like, oh, this is tyrannical. This is da-da-da-da. And then like there's a sect of these folks, and I've heard Tyler Bear Spray Bessinger say this before. He said it's to Carolyn Murray. That they have an anti-police faction, and we actually saw that. I mean, he has anti-police beliefs, and we saw that on full display during the George Floyd uprisings, where a number of Boogaloo Boys and other folks who you can identify as either Proud Boys or white nationalists actually were trying to tell Black organizers. I saw this either in social media here in South Carolina, and I also saw in other places. But you saw the Boogaloo Boys and other white nationalists, anti-police, anti-authority people, believers, ideologues. I don't know what the hell. You saw them tell Black organizers, "Hey, we're on your side. We're on your side. We're anti-police too." And I see where people started to kind of join with, like, get enveloped into that cause. And I'm bringing this up because if you just heard what she just said, she's not even talking about party lines. Now, granted, she's Republican. She's going to run on a Republican ticket. But there's this thing where they're trying to recruit people who are just disenchanted with both sides. And they're actually gaining ground in that. And at least in my observations, they're actually making headway with recruiting people who are disenchanted with the right and the left. And see, for me, I've never retreated to the safety of a white nationalist. But we've seen, and this is an oldie but goodie, I'll never let Shakim and then James Bessinger. I'll never forget this bullshit, how Tyler Bear Spray Bessinger, a whole white nationalist, and Shakim, a Black nationalist, Black nationalists, if you study Black nationalism, what Black nationalists and white nationalists have in common, the traditional, now there's all types of Black nationalists, like all kind, and I ain't trying to go through this rabbit hole. I'm just trying to show y'all where they're doing this common ground shit. So Tyler, you see right there on the left, and Shakim on the right, both are white and Black nationalists. And Shakim subscribed at that time, subscribed to a kind of Black nationalism that believes in the separation of the races, the physical separation of the races. And you can hear this a lot, like in really early on Nation of Islam rhetoric and teachings. You can Marcus Garvey. There's a lot of, like, let's go back to Africa movements way back when, right? A lot of that was a part of Black nationalism that believed in the physical separation of the races. And I heard Shakim and James Bessinger both say that that's where we have some kind of common ground here. Now they went on on PBS NewsHour and all these other places saying that they were part of the solution to stop the violence. Right. But they actually were just it was crazy how the media, including PBS NewsHour, was so hungry to see. Hey, this is right after, this is after Mother Emanuel. They were so thirsty to see two passionate groups come together that they actually gave these dudes a platform. Right. And they're completely just dumb. It was the dumbest. I know I'm not. Take a swig, characterizing it in the best ways, and then I wrote a response to their little beer summit. Let me see the paper. I wrote a response at that time. Whoa, Kimosabi might be Tamika. Let me see. Yeah. Right here, I wrote this after these two came together. Again, this is relevant because we're starting to see people get confused and say, well, I'm also hesitant about vaccines. Oh, I'm also, not really clear on why police are doing what they're doing. Like, you're seeing people be brought in because there's this no, it's not propaganda. There's this intentional misleading of folks and trying to just recruit bodies by appearing to be open to all kinds of thinking and all kinds of people to look more diverse. Look, this is before I lost my retainer and I used to wear hair weaves and wear a shit ton of makeup. All right, so when I was a blogger. All right, so I wrote a response to it, right? And I talked about how the press conference was led by Tyler Bessinger, and I made sure to point out South Carolina Secessionist Party and Shakem Amin-Aket, Charleston Black Nationalist Movement. As the two men offered up their perspective and statements of purpose, some light banter, and a reference to the previous night's beer summit, I couldn't help but cringe. Right, and I'm like, and this, at that time, what date was this? This is 2017, right? So it's after Mother Emanuel, but at that time, you saw this thirst from the media trying to how can we get people to come together as one? And it was like, wait a minute, you actually think that this bros beer summit is actually real? And that's when I started to be very, very careful about taking a look at some of these voices, even if they're voices of color, specifically if they're voices of color, seeing what their ideology is, seeing if what they're saying is rooted in either scholarship, is rooted in learning, and rooting in something, right? It doesn't have to be the white canon, I had to start looking closer at leaders and these emerging voices. This was my first lesson in that. And if you just look at it at its face, oh wow, a white nationalist and a black nationalist come together to end violence. What the fuck? They actually create violence. And now it's so weird because now they're still working together. They're still gang. They're still very much gang. And Shakem is trash, complete trash. And Tyler Bessinger is a whole white nationalist that I thought was sued into oblivion, but cockroaches can survive nuclear blast, so why can't Tyler survive being sued into oblivion? Shout out Roy. All right. Yeah, she's going for the extremist vote. That's really good. All right, can she not find somewhere to film from seatbelted in her car? Absolutely, El Cool J. It was a good observation earlier of the Loomis clip. KCJ18, if someone consistently films from their car, they don't know what they're talking about. KCJ18, I ain't gonna lie. I got that bias too, but I don't want to offend nobody who films in their car. I don't want to offend anybody, but I be thinking that when you only in your car, right? When you only in your car, it's like you start sounding like Kristen Wiig and Bridesmaids. There's something they're not telling us. There's a woman in colonial garb on the wing of the airplane churning butter. You start sounding like that to me sometimes in those car confessionals. All right, yeah, she's going for the extremist vote. One thing they have in common is that they hate women. That's Joni James. Say that again. That's the other part too. You'll see this really weird upholding of the patriarchy, and she is a pick-me, and so is Nancy Mace. She's totally a pick-me, right? Trying to make sure she doesn't piss off or alienate the men in power, right? And so by doing so, she upholds the patriarchy. The Piper Loomis woman, she's really big into continuously talking about her husband and his battles, his physical battles and ailments. I talked about this yesterday let me get back to it, about how we're seeing the women who took to the microphone, how they were using their femininity, weaponizing it, right? So, all right, I wanted to give you a shot of that. Also, please pay particular attention to the rhetoric. You do need to listen. We do need to, when we hear themes of separation of the races, when we hear anti-police rhetoric, when we hear anti-authority, that actually needs to be like, our rabbit ears need to just perk up, and we need to be suspicious of that. As much as I'm an abolitionist, so I don't hate police because I think police are bad and I hate them. No, I'm an abolitionist. I don't believe that jails do anything for our society. I don't believe that you should imprison folks who even the ones that perpetuate harm. I think that there are other solutions that actually help to reform most folks. I don't believe that prison is humane. That is completely different from hating the cops and, doing what Tyler Bessinger and Corey both participated in when they took part in the January 6th insurrection. They hated authority. They wanted to kill authority figures. They wanted to kill the cops, and some of them succeeded in that, right? And so that's completely different from abolition. And people like Shakim are gonna bank on the fact that you don't make those distinctions, that Black people don't make those distinctions. People like Shakim want you to be ignorant, want you to not be doing your reading, right? And so that you can kind of just get confused and come into the fray. But you have to be, and that's the thing, white people, not all Black leaders are the same. Not all Black leaders are leaders. The loudest Black voice is not a leader all the time. Y'all got to get that. I don't care if y'all get it, but I just want you, if you approach me with some bullshit like, hey, can you come and do this event? I've got Joe Blow here too. He's really loud. Like, sometimes y'all come to me with events, I'm like, why would I go to this? Why would I be a part of this? What, like, where do you see common ground between me and this person? Like, sometimes y'all really blow my mind. All right, let's go back to city council real quick. I'm gonna take a look at y'all comments. But again, okay, so Karine in the car, back to city council, back to Tuesday night's meeting. Amber, the commission, we're gonna talk more about this commission and how Amber was not set up for success. Because this is the part we didn't even get to. So after the meeting was in recess, and y'all saw I was trying to get through everything before I went to the orthodontist yesterday. I was trying to get through everything, and after I spoke with Alvin, I realized that, oh shit, Amber presented. But why did they have, riddle me this, y'all. It's about to come back on. Why did they have Amber present the commission's reports and recommendations after public comment? Why? And Nicole, I think you said this yesterday, and it kind of went over my head. I think, Nicole, you said this yesterday. You said that they should have kept the comments separate. Or I think somebody said keep the microphone separate, but I think I might have read it that way. But why didn't they separate the mask mandate issue from the commission issue? Just like they did when they opened up. Erica, you were there. You gave comment about the development plans for Johns Island. You gave comments specific to that issue. They kept that in a silo. You saw that, right? That was intentional. You know how they always start off with zoning and whatnot, and they keep that very separate. Why would they let this rabbit faction, and they anticipate this faction, you don't hold that shit on Daniel Island that close to Mount Pleasant and not expect these anti-maskers, these weirdos. Let me throw that over here. I gotta get rid of that. We don't expect these unmasked our kids people. You can expect them to be there, right? So why would you let her go after that raucous public comment period? Because you wanted to set her up you didn't want to set her up for success. And this is how they do us. And when I say this is how they do us, it's convenient. It's very simplistic. It's not really deep analysis. But y'all, when I tell you the city continuously tries to perform equity, perform inclusion. These are my thoughts. These are not Alan's thoughts or Amber's thoughts or anyone's. These are mine. But the city continuously always shows us and demonstrates that they love the performative, but they don't love the substantive. They don't really spend time. This commission is not even funded, y'all. This commission is not even funded. Just what? Last week I showed you what happened after Freddie Gray in Baltimore. I showed you the $12 million fund that wasn't just offered up to big nonprofits that usually take up all the space in the room. No, they offered up funding for smaller grassroots groups who don't ordinarily have a space at the table. There was actual funding set aside to resource movement work on the ground in Baltimore following the Freddie Gray incident, right? And granted, that money was collected before Freddie Gray died, but they saw the moment and like, okay, we need to act, and we need to so I'm showing you what a city that has an understanding of what that they're in the grips of a crisis, a cultural crisis. I'm showing you other cities and how they act. They're not always perfect. They're not always perfect, but they try and they dedicate funds and allocate resources. There's no funding for this commission. That's why to me, it's comical to see a lot of white folks call in, write in, and come to the microphone and admonish recommendations from a commission that's not even funded. It's toothless, is my point. It's toothless. So you love showing us that you started this commission. I'm Don C. Tecklenburg. I did this and I did that. And Orville Redenbacher Riley, I did this. I got these many black people jobs. Y'all love pointing at the shit, but it's not policy. It's not substantive. It's not something that sustains us. And then you do this fuck shit and you take Amber's work. You take all this hard work done by the commission chairs and by volunteers and by Amber. You take all that work and you literally throw it in the garbage can because you let her follow insanity. Literally follow insanity. So this is the part we didn't get to talk about yesterday after they came back and convened.
For you this evening, and we just want to thank them again for their...
Let me back it up a little bit.
As a report, I would like to just thank everybody who was involved in this effort over the last year. The commissioners, some of which I believe are here tonight: Alvin Johnson, Dr. Kimberly Butler Willis, Dr. Felice Knight, Tracy Doran, Darren Lee Calhoun, Crystal Robinson Rouse, a number of our council members.
Shout out Crystal, shout out Alvin, shout out Darren.
Amber, please
shout out
help
Amber.
me if I've left anybody out. Jerome Harris, Arthur. Well, there were over 40 other members of the subcommittees that spent countless hours over the last year discussing what's coming before you this evening. And we just want to thank them again for their efforts and
He
all
did this
the
with a
time
straight
and effort
face.
they put into it. So without further ado, I'd also thank
Nicole, you offered this up over here on Twitch. You said being pushed to an afterthought in the meeting. Yeah, it became an afterthought, and it's such an important piece of work that we contributed to. Marcus included. I keep forgetting Marcus was on one of the subcommittees as well. Like, this is crazy. And let me see what Nicole wrote. And then people say, why do you want to make everything about race, but you don't see this happening with anything centered around white interests? You don't. Something that can be characterized as white interests. Take a swig.
our own staff member, Amber Johnson, who from the staff point of view led this effort. And I believe she's done a terrific job. And Amber, she gets things straight here. Take it away.
Gets things straight here.
Thank you. Good evening, members of council and mayor. I'd like to thank you for the opportunity to present this report from the Special Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial Conciliation. This group has been very thoughtful and intentional about the work. These conversations have been difficult, but I've seen so much growth and those who've been willing to lean into that uncomfortable space. This report includes a list of key terms, but I pulled out a few that I thought were important for us tonight. I'd also like to note that a workshop is being arranged for council members to help ground us all in the work and to give us a foundation for this work. I'd like to begin by distinguishing between equity and equality. Equity is the step before equality. Equality indicates sameness and fairness, where equity is about meeting people where they are and providing them with the opportunity and their needs. Racial equity is the condition where one's racial identity no longer has an influence on how one fares in society. Equity is a process and an outcome. As an outcome, achieving racial equity would mean living in a world where race is no longer a factor in the distribution of opportunity. As a process, we apply racial equity when those
for those who were there, if you're still watching and watching the live stream either on Twitch or on Facebook, at this point after the recess, did most people leave, or did she have a captive? Like, did she have an audience, a substantial or a nice sized audience, or did most people leave after public comment and recess? If you know that, just drop it in the chat for me, because I'd really love to know if she was talking to just largely city council and a number of other, residents who stayed behind.
Most impacted by the structural racial inequities are meaningfully involved in the creation and implementation of institutional policies and practices that impact their lives. Gotcha. They're based on race. So
I'm gonna. Oh, Alvin. Alvin just texted me. Alvin just texted me. Thank you, Alvin. Most people left by that point. Right. Shout out, Alvin. Thank you. No, she still had an audit. What you mean? You didn't mean audition. I think you meant something else. That's Nicole. She still had an audience. I think that's what you meant. But most people left. Okay, Nicole, you're saying the same thing Alvin just said. Yes, most people left. You were one of the last people to speak. And there was a handful of people there. Okay. I got you. Most people left though. Yeah, Nelson Nicole, you said the same thing. Okay. Thank you, Alvin. Thank you, Nelson Nicole. Thank you, Nicole, over here on Twitch.
Knowing this helps us take a more intersectional approach while also naming the role that race plays in people's experiences and outcomes. On June 20th, this council created the Special Commission on Equity, Inclusion, and Racial.
Look, Mama, I made it. I'm at the bottom here, right above the subscribe here on Twitch. I'm right here. Shout out to History and Culture. Gang, gang.
Conciliation. We took a considerable amount of time thinking about who we should include in this effort. We were able to assemble some of the best and brightest from across the city to help us with this. Not only subject matter experts.
So let me beat another dead horse. Thank you, Alvin. Alvin, you said, let me see what he said via text. You said the people who needed to hear the presentation left. Absolutely. It wasn't set up for success, y'all. She just wasn't. The commission, you could take it out of, the commission wasn't set up for success, to be honest. So let me beat a dead horse here, because you see these acknowledgments here as well. And I want you to take a look at the center column, the lower third or lower fourth of that column. You see the mayor and city council. So you have not every city council person, right, was involved with this commission. So you don't see Seekings. You don't see, they had to take Harry off because Harry was just a mole and need to just kind of learn information and then go back to the Proud Boys and shit on it later, right? You don't see Mitchell here, even though Mitchell is cool on this. What I want you to pay particular attention to is like the mayor and city council. Throughout my time on the history and culture subcommittee, we saw routine check-ins from Amber, Jason Saccharin. I'm gonna speak for my committee. Amber, Jason Saccharin, Dudley Gregory. Those are the only ones I can remember. It could have been some other people popped in. I think the mayor popped in, Scott Watson, city staff. You see that city staff column all the way to the far right. Scott Watson popped in and some other people popped in, right? The dead horse I'm trying to beat is that not only is it important to set Amber up for success, it's also important to engage with this work meaningfully. So what we saw from Ross last week and during this city council meeting was a lot of questions, a lot of hand wringing, a lot of rocking back and forth. Oh Lord, what it's gonna do? What it's gonna do about this racial equity issue? Oh no, my constituency don't really like words like reparations and reconciliation, and they don't like race. You know you saw a lot of hand wringing, but when you were presented with an opportunity to meaningfully engage with not just my subcommittee, but the other subcommittees, not only that. You had an opportunity to dialogue directly with Amber. She's a city employee. This is a full-time job for her, right? This is her one of her chief core roles, right? In this job, you could have, I said this before, like there's a part of, even though this is city council, this is not Congress, this is not being a state senator, you have to lobby in order for legislation, recommendations, ordinances to pass, to be popular. You have to lobby your peers and lobby your constituents and sell them on why you think this work is important. Don't show up to the meetings after the fact, after you've been given time and time again to engage with this work, not just at the end, but during the middle, the beginning. You never did that. There wasn't any, and I'm not saying that Ross didn't pop in the meetings. I'm telling you who I remember seeing at my subcommittee meetings. I saw Jason Sackrings pop in, Dudley Gregory, the mayor, Scott Watson. That's it, right? Right? I'm not saying Carol didn't do, I'm just who I can recall, right? They were engaged. To me, they gave the impression that they were engaged, they were invested, especially Jason Saccharin, right? And Dudley. They were engaged and they were invested. And to me, if you really wanted Amber to succeed, you would have engaged with this work early on, enthusiastically. You would have been the biggest champion of this work. You would have talked about the credibility of the chairs of each subcommittee. You would have talked about the credentials. You would have talked about, hey, you know Angela Mack from the Gibbs Museum. Don't you have a membership to the Gibbs Museum? You remember Angela Mack? Remember that dinner we went to? Yeah, well, she's a co-chair of the History and Culture Commission. Oh yeah, you know her work. You trust Angela. That's how you politic. And now I see Ross taking a victory lap on Twitter yesterday, being Mr. After the fact, easy stance guy. But when we needed you to demonstrate courage in real time and to champion this, and not with this whole, hey guys, I really like what you're doing, I really applaud the work, but all this conditional support that's way louder than the support that you may have offered. Because again, I don't know if Ross was enthusiastically championing these findings, these recommendations. I know what I see on the public record. I know what I saw last week. I know what I saw this week. That don't sound like a full-throated support of these recommendations or the work being led. Where is the politics? Where is the lobbying? They should have just called this the Hotel Commission, because wouldn't nobody give a damn. And it would have got rubber stamped. They should have just called it the Hotel Commission. They should have just called it the police need more money commission. Because nobody would have been looking at this with a magnifying glass, trying to take a look at it and dissect it and whatnot. It's really, really, really disheartening to see lawmakers make these bad faith arguments about work they know good and goddamn well is solid. And it's, I'm sorry if this sounds like a backhanded, it's not backhanded what I'm trying to say here, because Amber and the chairs had no power over this. This ain't funded, y'all. This ain't funded. So what do you think that this commission is going to do? What drastic sweeping changes do you really think? Now it could be the beginning of some really dope work. Absolutely. You could take these recommendations, these guidelines, and then you can start engaging the mayor or whomever might be running to oppose the mayor. You could really use this. Hey, I want to keep you accountable. You can use this as the starting point to continue the conversation in real ways and not in this performative way that we see the city tend to take up. Right? This is the start. This is the beginning of some really important work, but it's unfunded, and it's not policy proposals. This is literally just an articulation of the issue, a very, very detailed articulation of the issue. And I'm not going to say definitively that I know that some of these council people read the report, read the commission's findings. I'm just going to say sound like a lot of them they got their hands on it and they just did a quick little perusal. I don't really feel, I'm not getting the impression that folks really engaged with this work meaningfully. I'm not getting the impression that folks poured over. A lot of the feedback or pushback was around certain key phrases that are unpopular in conservative circles. So yeah, you're going to bring up CRT, you're going to bring up reparations, you're going to bring up all these other buzzwords, but you're not actually even paying attention to all the other meat on the bone. And that's how I know you ain't read that motherfucking commission report. That's how I know. You ain't read that. And if you did, you skimmed it for certain buzzwords or you searched it for certain buzzwords, right? You didn't really read this report. And and I'm not trying to remove Amber's agency. I'm not trying to put her in this position where she's a victim. I'm just letting you know that because she's not. She's educated, she's strong. This is just my take. I share this take with somebody else. I don't think Amber's is here much longer. Not doing this work. Not after this. Now I might be completely wrong, but I wouldn't be surprised if Amber found another job somewhere else. Because this to me, they don't honor her work. They don't really justify the way she showed up for this commission. They don't justify it. Or rather, they don't honor it. Let me say that. They don't honor that work with, to me, what would be an appropriate response to so much sweat equity that was poured into doing this work, coming up with these recommendations. Y'all, I'm telling you, like, the conversations were not, tedious is not the word, but just painstaking, at least in my subcommittee of history and culture, right?
Also people who understand racial equity and what that looks like.
They didn't even give her a podium. I'm serious. Like, I know that y'all might be like, well, other people didn't have a podium. She should have been given a podium. This should have been the signature presentation of the night. This should have been hailed as the must-see part of the agenda. That's really important. This should have been like the way you cue things up, the way you tee things up. It really, really, really does matter. So she's showing some commission timeline information. So since, to Erica's earlier point about when the commission started, it started after the uprisings. Absolutely. And now again, Amber was in office doing her thing. I forgot the name of her office, but then the work started to respond directly to what we were seeing politically, not just here in the streets of Charleston, but throughout the world, right? So since September 2020, the subcommittee chairs have conducted 68 individual subcommittee meetings, and the commission has met 14 times, y'all. This group was charged with making the city's apology for slavery and Jim Crow more than just a promise, but rather a commitment to dismantling racism through policy level change. Let me read that last paragraph one more time. This group was charged with making the city's apology for slavery and Jim Crow more than just a promise, but rather a commitment to dismantling racism through policy level change. Now you're going to say, well, Mika, you just said it's not policy. This informs policy. I'm not like this would inform policy. This is a way to keep not just the mayor, but other city council people accountable. This is a rich document that has so many important findings that you can use to inform policy. It's the beginning, y'all. It's the beginning. It's how you start these conversations, right?
Long-term goals. Criminal justice reform, reimagine police services with the goal of building trust with the community and the police department. Economic empowerment.
I see that.
Reduce the Black income poverty rate.
I ain't gonna talk too dirty because I know a lot of commission heads. Y'all don't do chair on chair violence. But I do. So I want to say, but I do. I see, when did anybody know when Michael Better left the criminal justice reform? Can y'all let me know? I wasn't a fan. Not a fan. But if I'm not gonna take whatever you offer. I'm not gonna take that and like run with it and take a swig, mischaracterize anything about Michael Better. But can y'all tell me when Michael Better left? Because I just need this personal. Because I see Jerome Harris is the chair of criminal justice reform, but when did Michael Better leave? Right? over here, is it was it Hancock's? Is it LK Hancock's or IK Hancock's? Is this the first time the commission like this is taking place? I mean, there's been other types of commissions. I don't know. I couldn't even. Let me not even just try to answer something. I can't even attempt to answer that question. I know that the slavery apology was like the beginning of a lot of mishigas, I guess. I don't know. Just the mere fact that folks would acknowledge slavery as this really horrible atrocity, the mere acknowledgement of slavery, and the city apologizing, a city that at its height brought in the most slaves, brought in the most enslaved Africans during the transatlantic slave trade. To me, is not far-fetched for that city to acknowledge its role in systemic racism and white supremacy. But even that conversation was completely it dissolved. And so this is supposed to bring those conversations about LK, I got you, about the this is supposed to bring the conversation about the apology for slavery and make it more substantive, right? Take it from a conversation and try to inform policy, right? Right. Nelson Nicole, you said here on Facebook, like, how are you going to apologize for slavery when you're still perpetuating harm? You're still engaged in practices that are like vestiges of slavery. You're right.
10% in over 10 years and increase Black assets by 20% over the next 20 years. Health disparities and environmental justice.
Okay. So she's going through subcommittee by some. I kind of want to see how this plane lands and see like what the mayor says.
One mayor or one city council. It will take all of us to embed this work into the fabric of the organization. Thank you for your time and the opportunity to create a report with recommendations to help the city advance racial equity.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Ms. Johnson? Well, I would like to offer just a moment of historical perspective of my own as to how we got here tonight. This city last year celebrated its 350th birthday. We didn't have much of a party because of COVID, but it was our
because of slavery
350th birthday. And just a few years ago, as Amber mentioned, this city approved.
I just got a text. Absolutely, friend. Nobody asked questions. You saw my expression, right? Any questions? Bueller, nothing. No questions. After all of that, no questions. Can I just say this?
An apology.
Let me just say this. Shout out to all, I'm going to speak directly to women, to Black women and girls. Shout out to all the Black women and girls who excel in the classroom, who excel at work, and who demonstrate excellence, only to have that excellence be met with indifference. Only to have that excellence be met with resistance, with pushback. Like, shout out to all the black women who demonstrate excellence time and time again and are met with indifference. To me, indifference is almost more painful than you just coming out and say, I don't really fuck with Mika. I don't really like what she does. I don't like how she goes about her business. To me, indifference is worse. Because again, I think that, and this is where I am in terms of how do I think about how we don't honor Black history here in this city, how we don't preserve any of the Black shit, any of the indigenous stuff. There's a monopoly. Shout out Adam Dombey. There's a monopoly on. Shout out Adam Dombey. We lost another scholar to another institution. He's now at Auburn. Used to teach at CFC. This is his book, The False Cause: Fraud, Fabrication, White Supremacy in Confederate Memory. And Adam Dombey's work was the work that gave me the word power to talk about historical memory. Right? And there's a monopoly on historical memory. Y'all know who got the monopoly on historical memory, right? And to me, indifference or relegating someone to obscurity is so violent. Like, imagine showing up, somebody just gifted, or Fletcher, the juice is right. Go ahead, Fletcher. Hey, welcome to the club. To me, being relegated to obscurity, being disappeared, to me is so violent. And y'all know I talk about erasure a lot. I talk about it a lot on IG. I talk about my erasure in real time. It's something I battle with. It's not an ego thing, y'all. It's more so, damn, when you pour so much into some people, institutions, places, a city, and to literally not see any of it, like not see the things you really work hard at to be embraced. To me, I just respond to that. It actually makes me very sad. I become overcome with sadness. I talked about that when I was at Om Radio. I'm up here teaching myself how to run a board. I'm creating my own show. I'm booking my own show. I'm recording remote interviews on a handheld recorder and then bringing it back, editing, bringing it back. I'm curating all this information. I'm reading books. I'm spending hours in the library. And the radio station doesn't even acknowledge the daily updates I did for COVID in my closet on Wadmalaw Island in my parents' house. Right. And them not acknowledging, wow, she's doing a daily update, 20-30 minute update every day. We can't, like, and it's not be acknowledged at all. And you're like, I know I'm doing at least solid work, but the indifference is so violent. And so for Amber to work so hard to lead this cause, she's a quiet leader. I offered this up yesterday to a friend that I didn't really know how to read Amber initially. You might even find a post where I might have been critical on Amber. Like, where's she at? Right? I think I wasn't the only one asking that question either early on when she first was the point. When the big splash of the hire made it to the Post and Courier, they made sure it was posted in the Post and Courier. We didn't hear from Amber for a while. You didn't see Amber. And then as I served on this commission that they try to keep me off of, I got to see Amber up close, and I got to make what I feel was a more fair assessment of her work. She's a quiet leader. She's a quiet, pensive, thoughtful leader. And it's a shame that someone with her credentials, with her experience, and with her leadership acumen, it's a shame that her work is met after over a year of hard work and sweat equity. It's really shitty to see her work be met with indifference and a lot of performative hand wringing from Ross, from Shade, from countless others. You had over a year to engage with this work meaningfully, to have your top questions answered. You had over a year to help massage language or to introduce language you feel is more accurate. You had over a year to do that, and you wait to this moment, and then you take a victory lap on Twitter as if you did a thing. You just shitted on the activists, at least two of which served on these subcommittees. You just shit on the activists in one breath a previous week, and then you're taking a victory lap like you did something because you didn't side with the I don't want to use ableist language, but with the faction of folks who are just rabid. It's just really, yeah. Hey Justin, good morning. Thank you for lifting that up. Yeah. Thank you, LK, for saying it's not ego. Yeah, in the dang closet. I'm telling you. Let me tell you something about the closet I was in making that show, making those updates every day for zero pay, producing my own show for zero pay, producing a 5-day-a-week show before 7:30 a.m. up at 4, curating clips, editing clips in a closet with Wadmalaw Island Wi-Fi. Y'all, the struggle was real. My nose, like the acoustics were great though. I ain't gonna lie, the acoustics were great. My mom's church dresses, they were in the closet that I was in, and so like Had all this White Diamonds perfume in my face, but the acoustics, some of the best acoustics I've ever recorded in until I moved here. This closet over here is kind of banging too. Yeah, my mom loves White Diamonds, y'all. Ooh. Triggered. Anyway, I'm sorry. Hi, welcome. If you're new, welcome. I'm random sometimes. Okay, so Amber just presented. The mayor just asked City Council to offer up any comment or questions. They weren't radio silent. They met this woman's presentation. It's thoughtful presentation. They ain't even giving no podium. She's up there juggling both this thick document and the clicker to change the slides on the PowerPoint. Didn't even give her a podium. Didn't give her a chair, table, nothing. Somebody's back, something. And now we hear Joe. Now we hear Mayor Tecklenburg talk.
Not for
Yes,
what anybody
Crystal.
did individually, but what this city government did as an institution prior to 1865 to directly administer
Prior to
the
1865.
institution of slavery in this city and in the Low Country.
Prior to 1865.
So we apologize for what the city did. And I'm not going to go through all those things tonight, but there was some really horrible stuff that this city did.
You think? Huh? It's crazy too how people get wrapped around the axle of just slavery. They don't talk about the Black codes. They don't talk about Jim Crow, Jane Crow. They don't talk about what it was like to be Black, and perhaps not in bondage as a slave, but in some other type of bondage in Charleston. They don't talk about that. They just get wrapped around slavery as like the biggest piece of red meat. And they don't really, there's no nuance in this conversation. I feel like the report, the commission, the findings, the recommendations give you that nuance to help this conversation be a little bit more rich.
Will of this commission continue this work, because it doesn't end tonight. And even if you approved every recommendation, you wouldn't end racism in the world. This is a journey we're on, folks. I view it that way.
I agree with the mayor there. You're not going to hear me say that often. I agree with the mayor there. I actually agree with that. I'm going to stop it there. Again, I wanted to hold space for Amber. I wanted to give her flowers, so to speak. And I hope that, hey, I don't know how much leeway, I don't know how much influence I really have. I really don't. But if y'all could email Amber, she works for the city. If you've read this commission, or if you're even remotely familiar with the work she's been leading, go ahead and drop her an email or something like that. She probably doesn't want me to do that, but I don't know her personally. I'm not her friend or anything like that. But do something to signal that you really support her effort. I feel like, and I'm not comparing her to a white fictional character. I'm not. But y'all remember, I hope you read the book To Kill a Mockingbird, but if you've seen the film starring Gregory Peck, remember that scene after Gregory Peck's Atticus character represents Tom, and all the Black people in the balcony, because of segregation, because of apartheid, all the Black people are in the balcony watching, and they wait for him to leave, and it's just a solemn walk as Atticus exits the courtroom. I kind of feel like that to me, that image popped up in my head as I visited this meeting again, and see Amber's presentation be met with just indifference, no questions, no engagement, no nothing. I felt like maybe the Alvin Johnsons, the Crystals, the Darrens, the Tracys, we all stood up, removed our hats, and we created a space where we wanted to show her reverence and respect. But yet, I don't know. I just felt like it was a very solemn, and I might be completely wrong. She might be cool. She might be going to Cabo next week. I have no clue. She might be like, did it, but acknowledge her work somehow. Y'all just recognize her work somehow. Letter to the editor, something. Just is the worst thing you could do is let this woman's work, let this commission's work, let the 40 plus volunteers work just be relegated to obscurity, right? All right, that's the worst things we could do is that. I wanted to go back and see, like, I went back to Caitlin Bird's Twitter because I wanted to see the final vote tallies. Well, they just really focused on the mask mandate, but they just focused on a mask mandate. I think both she and Chloe focused heavily on the mask mandate, but when it came time for the commission recommendations, what was the final verdict on that? Like, that was like they couldn't agree to even accept it, right? It was accepted as information, not as recommendations. Y'all keep me honest with that. L Cool J over here on Twitch. So easy to point out mistakes of past by other white people in power, but no real learning. Let me read that again. So easy to point to mistakes of past by other white people in power, but no real learning. Otherwise, they would spotlight the current systems and maybe not have passed protest gathering limits in a special session, right? Leaving it up to the police, right? Or at least hold up recommendations of this commission. That I think is such an astute observation. And for someone asked me this, and I never got back to you on Facebook. I think it was Jennifer. You asked me, like, Mika, what's your problem with REI or DEI, like diversity, inclusion, training, or REI, or race, equity, inclusion, like all these little workshops that pop up. The YWCA might host and spearhead all these REI trainings. Like, well, Mika, what's your point? Like, because what it does is that it puts specifically white people in a position to one thing, to check a box, a performative box. Like, well, I went to this training, I sat through this training, and I listened to this instruction, I learned more about internal bias, yada yada yada. But also too, it doesn't really, to me, activate white people to actively dismantle white supremacy. It puts white people in this position where they're always observers, assessors, referees. They got a couple of black friends, they read a couple of woke books, they bought a couple of t-shirts, and they feel like the work is done, as opposed to letting white folks know that, no, you've got a lifelong commitment to dismantling white supremacy. And so I know you're not saying that, El Cool J, but when you offer up a take that I so agree with about how like it's easy to call Calhoun a white nationalist. Oh, that thing that happened back in 1865. Bro, what are you talking about? My dad left in the 60s, like in 1960s, not 1860s, right? Right? They were still renting the slave quarters on McLeod Plantation in the 1990s as actual dwelling spaces, as actual homes. These are structures that have no indoor plumbing. Maybe there was some electricity in the 90s put in there. Maybe. So we're not, this is not 1865. We're talking about things that happened within my, of course, in my lifetime, not just my lifetime, throughout my formative years here in Charleston. Those are just two really easy to grab for examples. But it's so easy to point to Calhoun, to point to the Gadsdens, to point to all these other boogeymen in the past, as instead of looking in the mirror and confronting your role, your complicity in perpetuating white supremacy. Right? It's so easy to do that. And I think sometimes these trainings, book clubs, and things that emphasize attendance and showing up, just showing up, I think that they let people off the hook, and where they don't really pursue that journey of really working to actively dismantle white supremacy, to challenge power, all power, to interrogate it thoughtfully and carefully. I don't think that folks are usually they're less inclined to do that. They just want to go to a weekend workshop and be out. All right. Right. Because at least we weren't slaves anymore. Right. And you did the eye roll emoji, Shelby. Right. Yeah. Nicole, because if we translate, Nicole here on Twitch, because if we translate it to now, that means we need to do something about it currently. Absolutely. Right. And we need to pay reparations too. So yeah, really disappointed. Shout out to Alvin. I really am grateful to the conversation we had about Amber's work, and you helped me with the timing of what took place in the room. I wasn't there. I was watching it live, and then I kept stopping and starting it and rewatching certain parts of it, of the meeting, and really I knew I was going to revisit the city council today, but didn't know that I was going to concentrate on Amber's work. I just think that it should be acknowledged, and there should be something more than just space created at a city council meeting. I wanted to pull up some clips. What I did this morning really quickly, no deep research. You know how people say I did my research and they just Google or look up stuff on YouTube. I did no real research. I wanted to get some visual, something that we can kind of feel and see, some content that talks about our history in school integration. I know yesterday I made this assertion that that the vitriol that we were all exposed to, literally from white nationalists in the room, Tyler Bessinger and Corey. I know I get Corey's name wrong. That's on purpose. But Corey, KKK Corey, literal white supremacists in the room, right? And so I made the assertion that a lot of the vitriol we're seeing around masks, it actually has a racial, like there's a racial animus undercurrent there. And I know for some people they might like, well, how did you arrive at that conclusion? I kind of sloppily and easily just want to say that all oppression is linked, number one. But the other thing I want to lift up is what AJ said. Let me see if I can find AJ's comments. Let me go back real quick. Y'all remember AJ?
That way.
Let me see if I can go back to AJ's comment. Right here. This was very important to hear this. Hey, Nicole. One day I'm going to play all Nicole's comment so we can hear her.
Cover on here, but I'm 100% in support of the commission report. And honestly, America is really behind on that. You know, slavery was a travesty and we haven't done anything to correct it.
Amen. I just love the facts. I love the facts. Thank you, Nicole. I know I keep abrupt. I just want to get to this comment real quick.
Ending segregation was also fear-mongered as Marxist and communist.
Okay, that's the part. That literally just that part. AJ gave amazing commentary, but I wanted to just you see me trying to isolate it. It's so hard. It's so hard.
Many people in this room can claim. You let quorum go at the beginning of this meeting, and as soon as the Charleston Black Lives Matter president spoke, you started cutting microphones. I want you all to inflect on that. We sit here on Daniel Island, albeit annexed, still in Berkeley County, one of the wealthiest and most whitewashed areas in the Tri-County area where students are zoned for Hanahan.
So again, the makeup of the area also, again, very, to me, somewhat deliberate. They could anticipate, let's say this is on the books. So they love to tell you that, oh, this was on the books. This was scheduled to be on Daniel Island. They said that a couple years ago when they did this mess, right? Had people go all the way to Berkeley County, no public transportation, none of that, right? Nothing is accessible. You in the middle of rush hour traffic, yada, yada, yada. But what he just mentioned and lifted up to me, like whether it was on the books scheduled or not, one of the first imported in-person meetings, council meetings after COVID, after whatever, they could anticipate what the crowd was going to look like. They could anticipate that. And to tackle these issues here, especially in regards to the commission, to me was a disservice. But again, this next comment, I want to kind of just isolate it one more time.
Discuss moving forward with your strategy on improving equity, diversity, and inclusion. I am here in support of the committee, mask mandates, reparations, critical race theory, and moving law enforcement budget to prioritize mental health and social services. Ending segregation was also fear-mongered as Marxist and communist. There are people.
So when I say that there is a racial animus undercurrent, I arrived there because the leaders in the room are white nationalists who brought the Proud Boys to town. I'm doing that on purpose, y'all. I'm being deliberately obnoxious with continuously saying that, because again, when Carolyn Murray sits down with Tyler Bessinger and gives him credibility, when PBS NewsHour interviews Tyler Bessinger and gives him credibility, y'all need to know that this dude is a white nationalist. And I'm not saying that, I show you that. So it's really important. But the fact that these two white nationalists specifically participated and led the whole unmask our kids shit, that just, it tells me explicitly, oh, there's some racial animus wrapped up in this, right? So now I'm gonna bounce back out. And I'm going to play this right here, the school integration. This is like Black History in 2 minutes. Not a big consumer of this content in general, but I think this was pretty, from what I watched, this was pretty good. I want you to pick up something. So remember what AJ said about Marxism, like how, take a swig, how school integration was characterized as Marxist and socialist and communist, I want you to see if you peep that imagery, peep some of that rhetoric in this old tiny clip. Let me wind it. All right, let's see. We got good.
Initially,
right, here we go.
Working class whites. One of the
Gotta bring it back. Here we go.
1954, the United States Supreme Court, in the landmark case Brown versus the Board of Education, held that racial segregation in public schools was unconstitutional.
Where desegregation was accepted and implemented, the strategy was successful. But in many parts of the country, it would take much more than a court order to change public opinion rooted in centuries of anti-Black racism.
Right there. Ooh. Y'all see it? Y'all see it? Race mixing is communism. Right? So when I said that these screaming women on the mic are eerily reminiscent to the images of white women screaming at school-age children, screaming at little old Ruby Bridges, screaming at the Little Rock Nine. When I tell you that those images were eerily reminiscent, I wasn't off. And I got to listen to my intuition sometimes, especially knowing that what I've read, what I've been exposed to, having the parents I've had, growing up the way I've grown up, mostly in Jersey, but partly in the South, right? I know my intuition, like sometimes my intuition just be like, yo, this familiar. You've been here before.
Politicians in county and state.
And for folks to say, oh, well, they weren't arguing about race mixing. Do y'all know how thin that line is? How quickly they will leap to race-based issues? We already heard it with them trying to discredit the commission's finding and recommendations. They will find that bridge to make the mask mandate. They will find that bridge, they will access that bridge, and they will travel across it. Once they make this correlation, once you start talking about these white parents who don't want their white children to be in schools with people of color, with kids of color at all, Black or, POC in general, right? These people who leave, and you're gonna talk like white flight. What did we hear yesterday? What did we hear when I recapped the meeting? What did we hear over and over again? I am a medical refugee. I fled New York and medical oppression. I fled. You heard white flight over and over and over and over again. And I'm like, where do I hear white flight over and over and over and over again? Oh yeah, I know where I heard it.
Governments across the South found ways to go around the laws. Sometimes they slashed state funding for public schools that
Sound
integrate.
familiar?
Sometimes they supported private academies attended predominantly by white students.
Sound familiar?
The main thrust behind African-American interest in desegregating was a desire for access to quality education. They understood that dollars followed white children into white schools.
Nearly 20 years after the Brown decision, many schools remained segregated, even in the North. And nowhere was this more evident than in Boston, Massachusetts. In response, the NAACP presented a class action suit demanding that schools and educational officials should act. In 1974, a federal judge in Massachusetts ruled that students in Boston would be bused from one neighborhood to another neighborhood.
I got so many like mixed feelings, and they're not even mixed. Like integration was like such a, we lost that one. Why would we want to go places where they don't want us? But let me read this comment that D, you dropped in the chat over here on Twitch. You said whiteness is well skilled at arguing about a surface issue, but it all comes back to what I was describing, D. Thank you. Right? Justin, you're like being sarcastic saying, nope, not familiar at all, right? Exactly. This shit is eerily reminiscent.
To balance school systems racially.
Working class whites. One of the things
you can't force acceptance. And I know you're saying, well, Mika, you organize, you talk to white people, and you got white friends, and you got white co-conspirators, and white people subscribe to your Patreon. Make sure you just subscribe to my Patreon. You're like, you can't force, like, that to me is community building, right? Like the work I do is community. I'm literally trying to build a community of critical thinkers. That if you ever wanted me to articulate a mission statement, I want to build a strong, robust community of critical thinkers who can understand the importance of centering Black liberation, centering Black interests, centering indigenous sovereignty. As we dissect news, current events, social, cultural shifts. I want us to center Black folks in ways that we never have, we've never been forced to. And I'm really just trying to build out a community of thinkers. That's why I like Twitch, is because I like Twitch because you all can contribute to the conversation. You literally are building out the conversation for me. You correct me in real time. You keep me straight. You keep me honest. You also improve you improve so much of how I view issues, right? It's collaborative. And I hope that I'm encouraging some sort of collaborative, culture. And so I'm really I'm not trying to persuade racists to be non-racist. I ain't collecting white folk no more. I don't do allyship workshops no more. I don't do any of that. That to me, that's just it's a fool's errand to try to convince someone who doesn't see me as a human being, right? I told that to Carolyn Murray when she chose to sit down with Tyler Bessinger. I'm like, you can't sit down with somebody who don't even acknowledge you as a human being first. Like, they don't have a cogent political point of view to argue from, right? So I'm no longer in the business of trying to convince people. And so when we think about and reflect on integration and Jim Crow and what justice would look like, I get why so many justice leaders were trying to advocate for integration. And I get why there were folks who were saying, nah, we just build our own, yo. Just leave us alone, stop killing us, and we're gonna build our schools over here. Like, leave us alone, stop killing us. All right, give us the loot. Shout out Biggie, right? And just leave us alone over here. I get that too. I get that on a cellular level, but like integration to me was such an interesting experiment that we saw, and I think people who were critics of it saw immediately what it really was about. Like, you can't force people into accepting, you can't force people into recognizing your humanity. And I'm not saying that you should leave the racists alone. I think you should piss off racists. I think you should irritate racists. I think you should call them out. I think you should call them what they are. I think you should always label them what they are, right? And show them what you're made of. But I don't think that our children, our people, our communities need to endure constant, whether it's explicit violence, fist to face, or whether it's the representational violence of being separate and unequal. I don't think that anyone should endure those indignities. And so integration to me was this big experiment, not just in the school systems, but in society. I'm not saying I'm Shakim and I believe in the division of the races. Absolutely not. I'm saying that if folks don't want you, why are we fighting? It's like trying to prove to a shitty boyfriend or partner, hey, I'm worth it. Don't cheat on me. Don't abuse me. Don't misuse me. Don't take my love for granted. Why am I campaigning for you to see me as a person of value? I can't sit there. If you don't want to be here, I don't want to be here either. And that's I know that's a very simplistic view, but I just wanted to kind of just say that
they have been able to benefit from is being able to send their children to all white schools. and the resources and the privilege that comes along with that. And now they're being asked to give that up.
In South Boston, as many as 18,000 students were
Remember,
forced to
racism
attend
is
new
everywhere.
schools.
It's not just in the South.
Angry protesters carried signs, hurled bricks at buses, and blocked school entrances. Opposition to integration continued well after the initial violence
Look at
subsided. Many middle-class white families moved to the suburbs,
Look familiar? White power?
abandoning the city's public school system.
White flight.
60 years after Brown v. Board of Education, American classrooms remain shockingly segregated. A direct
Look, I didn't grow up in utopia, right? I didn't grow up in paradise of this like kumbaya race. I'm looking for a picture right now of me when I was a kid. I didn't grow up in some sort of utopian society where there were no race issues, right? But I grew up my earliest memories of education are filled with memories of being around and among a lot of diverse people. I'm trying to find, hold up. Let me see if I can find proof. Okay, yeah. Let me see. Here we go. So this is me. 1983, Mama's Daycare Center. I had a few black male teachers too, like black men as educators and instructors. I'm gonna use this picture real quick. Let me see if it comes out. Here we go. Boom. Right. So here I am back here. Here's my big head brother, twin brother. Because I was taller, they always put me in the back. Even though I'm standing on chairs, he was a little shorty to watch. Anyway, this is Head Start, I think. This daycare, you just saw it, daycare. Look at my daycare class. Shout out to the peoples, the Williams brothers. Look at the racial makeup. This was how kindergarten, first grade, second grade look for me. My teachers, black women teachers. Right? That's how, so I didn't grow up in a utopian society, but I grew up with way more diversity than what was available to me as a 10th grader here in St. Andrews High School here in Charleston. And while I'm sure there were racial complexities that I wasn't privy to, that I wasn't, I wasn't connected to or didn't pick up on, I picked it up really good down here when I got here, and it was like, okay, white kids over there, black kids over there, and not really any brown, any sprinkles of any mocha, like not too many of them, over there. And like, but so I really picked up on it when I got here. But I remember living in a place where integration kind of happened. My neighbors, so I lived on a street where most of my neighbors were black, upwardly mobile, black, middle class. And then there were 3 families that were interracial, veterans of the war, black men, 2 black men who came back from the war with German wives, white German wives. So I had that mixed family to play with, the grandkids of that union to play with. We just were in this place that had more diversity, that offered it. And my mother didn't contend with issues with busing and equity, and we just had look at my teachers right here. This is pre-K, but like look at my teachers. I don't even know what this woman is, right? But a brown woman, a white woman, a black man. This is largely my experience in New Jersey. Egyptian classmates, Asian Korean, Chinese, folks from Pakistan and all that. Like that's how I grew up. Our birthday parties look like that too, right? Let me see what y'all saying. I look cute. I know. I ain't cute no more. I'm mean. Right. It just was yeah, I'm in New Jersey there. Yep. I don't come to South Carolina till I turn 15. So no, it's just like, when I think about integration, again, I didn't have the perfect situation at all. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is that I do have very mostly positive memories in the classroom when the classroom was organically diverse. right? And so I didn't contend with, and again, I'm born in 1980. This is pictures from 1983. But like, you know, I'm not saying that this is segregation, you know, post Jim Crow, not like that. But my point is, like, to me, when it happens organically, when you live in a place where white folks ain't afraid to put their kids in the same classroom. Now, granted, as I got older, you started seeing those white kids excel academically and go to these advanced placement classes and opportunities that we weren't really, you know, recruited for, or, you know, no one really picked up on. Like, that's real. I dealt with racism in the school. Please, I definitely did. But again, to me, I had a very, very multicultural school experience in New Jersey that happened to me organically. Yeah. Shelby, you said you never understood that. I didn't know about the integration part. I didn't either. Yeah. And I think even Martin Luther King kind of evolved in his thinking of integration. I'm about to land this plane, y'all. 9:30 is when I cut it off. Wait, LK Hancock, you said you grew up in a southern military town. Right, a military, so it was diverse, mostly as a result of foreign occupations. Yeah, I got you on that. And now I want to be fair too. So I don't remember military kids until I get to like middle school. I don't remember it. But there was Fort Monmouth right down the street from where I lived, and I'm sure. And then we had the Earl Navy base as well. So I'm pretty sure that the military around us, even though it wasn't really military kids going to Head Start in the pre-K we were going to, I don't think that was the reality. Oh God, y'all, my legs fell asleep. Yeah, I think military exposure, I had a lot of military classmates too that helped with the diversity as well. Yeah. Things got more segregated in high school. Exactly. With honors courses. So you and I had the similar experiences. Jessica, you said looks like your elementary classes in South Florida. I can imagine, right? Yeah.
Result of families.
I'm gonna let this finish.
Continuing to move to the suburbs.
I see you, Jessica.
Taking public funding based on property taxes along with them.
Come on.
The goals of Brown v. Board remain unfulfilled, even though its spirit lives on.
Yep. That's real. Yeah, I think that was really important to just kind of like, again, what I was trying to do in showing y'all this before I dipped today was showing you like, again, that language that was invoked at the city council meeting is eerily reminiscent of what we saw during busing, during school integration, so on and so forth, and how racial animus is always an undercurrent there. No, that's not me being too broad, or that's not me being a little too careless with creating that connection. It's just there. Again, you have literal white nationalists leading these women. And they have no compunction. They have no issue with being led by white supremacists. I really would love for someone to ask the parents that question, like to show them the picture of Corey, his mugshot, and the accompanying island packet story that outlines this person's history of violence, history of crime. I'd love for them to see that, to have that in their hands and be asked plainly, well, so you follow this guy, you have no issue with this guy's leadership, his history of being a criminal, you have no issue with him leading education cause, you don't think that he's maybe perhaps using you, being an opportunist to advance other anti-black racist causes. Like, I would love for someone in the media to actually challenge that, and like someone in the media to actually question some of the principles, like where are the. So during the primary, there's a lot of press that came down here, right? During the Democratic primary. If I offered comment at a town hall, or if I was part of a protest or something like that, international media members would constantly pull me aside. Can you offer content? Do you have something to say? You know, what can you tell me about what's going on here? I don't see enough of that here. Now, I know, like Paola and Kate Prestag, I know they do their job and they try to chase stories, but I don't see that as part of the culture here of like looking at some of the most animated and active people during the actual meeting. Did anyone attempt to talk to Corey Allen? Did anyone attempt to talk to James Tyler Bessinger and ask him questions, push back on some of the histrionics, push back on some of the performance, push back on some of that vitriol? Did anyone do that? And that's where I think our press corps does a disservice. And that's why it's important for you all to live stream the crazy guy with the red laces. It's important for you all to kind of point that stuff out in real time, because sometimes our press, and I'm not trying to be unfair, because sometimes I can be very unfair to local press, but I did this last night because I was bored. I was like, this is the guy that kept calling mask face diapers. I said, this is the face diaper dude starter pack. This is what he had on. Faded black polo. No disrespect to people going through male pattern baldness. No disrespect at all. But nah, like I would love for someone to just challenge. And I think that, it's important for you all to, like I said, to live stream things, to interrogate things in real time. But I really would love to see our press corps ask, like, who Tyler Bessinger is at this point. You know who Corey Allen is at this point. You know the Overton report is. You know that because of Harry Griffin's involvement. You know because of the space they occupy, where they used to occupy on the Battery. You know that they're neo-Confederates, members of Three Percenters, members of the Proud Boys, Oath Keepers. You see this insignia on their trucks. All right, you know where they are. You know how to find them. They're not hiding. Like, why don't we ask these questions when they pop up at the meeting? Why aren't we saying, oh? And a lot of you all are way better than me at identifying some of these principal characters who perpetuate a lot of white violence, white nonsense, anti-black racism. Y'all point them out better than me. All right. Oh, the mouth spittle. Oh, you're right. He was literally foaming at the mouth. Literally. All right. I was so bored. Like, dude just really got on my nerves last night. All right, so I'm gonna leave it there. What I want to tell y'all, tomorrow we will have a live stream. I might have to cut it off at 8:30 because I'm going out of town again. It's my annual fantasy football trip, so I'm not sure. I don't always say this when I go out of town. I'm at Target, y'all, trying to buy equipment to put it either wherever I'm staying to try to bring the live stream to you. I always bring my USB mic. I always bring this big ass. If y'all saw how big this laptop was, you'd be like, damn, you travel with them? Like, yeah, right? I'm trying to bring you content when I'm on the road, but it just like me on my cell phone from the hotel room is not the same experience. So after tomorrow, I'm not quite sure about our live streams. I'm going to try, even if I just go and buy a 20-inch monitor and maybe return it when my trip ends, get my money back. I can't fly with it. So maybe what I need, y'all, is a second monitor. I need good internet and a second monitor. And even the internet part is tricky because when you stream, you gotta have an Ethernet. You gotta have an Ethernet cable when you stream. So if I can't connect to a router and get a second monitor, then it's like I can't really do it. Yeah. Wait. Are the red laces are a thing? Hold up real quick. The red laces are a thing? For real? Thank you for saying enjoy my show. I will get rest. Apple cider donuts. You know it. I'm gonna be right at Delicious Orchard in Jersey. Wait, real quick. Red laces are a thing? They ruin everything. They ruin White Claw. What? Oh, and Doc Martens. Oh my God. Oh my God. What? Hold up. Let me do my research. Oh my God, yeah, boots and laces. Yeah, I know they ain't boots, but oh my God, Nicole, don't twitch unless it's from a hot tub, girl, please. I will electrocute myself trying to twitch from a hot tub. Literally like, okay, All right, y'all. Let me skedaddle. Thank you for your support. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for yesterday. Got so much views. I'll see you tomorrow. I'll be here tomorrow. So much views yesterday on the content, of course. Just a reminder, along with showing Amber some love, let me switch back over. Make sure you go over to Stephen Bowden's page, donate money, donate your time, amplify anything. Shout out to Stephen. He was in the comment section yesterday. I didn't even peep it. He was embarrassed by what took place at City Council. We need grown-ups on City Council. We need a grown-up for District 10 specifically. Go ahead and support Stephen Bowden. We're gonna keep him honest. If he gets elected, we're gonna keep him honest. But public defender, family guy, wholesome, cute little haircut, cute little dog wearing a bandana, serious about these issues. Go ahead and retweet him, share his content, go to his page, share his page, start lobbying, start campaigning, come on. We can't have 2 kids in a trench coat, aka Harry Griffin. We can't have that as leadership of District 10 anymore, okay? All right, y'all, I'm gonna leave it right there. I'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, 7:30 a.m. Thanks for rocking with me. If you can, support me on Patreon. If you can, support me here. Thank you to all the subbies today. Thank you for the new followers. Thank you. But I'll see you later. Bye.